already?
Found out that it is extremely simple, extremely simple. And we also found out how easy it is to, and how important it is for certain organizations to collect data.
Yeah.
And
already at that time, you said you had some connection with people or something in the Himalayas. So you were on a separate path already.
Oh yeah, when I was a young man, maybe you know the book, maybe you have ever read the book Autobiography of a Yogi from Paramahansa Yogananda. Well, I came into contact with these masters. And so I was introduced in that technology when I was a young man. So that gave a lot of influence in my life. And so when I worked in the IT as CEO, at a certain moment, I couldn't continue my work. I said, we only talk about money and profits and shares, and I started to hate it. In the same time, I came to the conclusion that there was something very, very negative going on this planet. I saw a lot of people becoming sick. I saw how it was in agriculture, etc., etc. And I met a friend who is still my business partner, who was a veterinarian, and he came to the same conclusion. And then I was in a very lucky position that I did some tests with him in a laboratory. And then I was invited to meet Professor Popp in Germany. Professor Popp, who is one of the founders of the biophotons.
And what year, what time frame are we now talking about?
That is 2007.
Yeah.
And then Popp became sick, and they asked me to take over the complete laboratory of Professor Popp. That's what I did. So I took over the whole team of Popp, his team, and I introduced a new team, and I introduced new technology on that, and we built new technology.
And you had no connection to being a scientist before this?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Only purely interest, purely, and it helped me a lot because I came up with stupid questions.
Right.
And I found out that's the most important thing because I had a lot of scientists with PhD in medicine, biology, all that stuff, but they were very limited because this was part of their thinking.
Yeah.
So we started with a very simple training. One day a week, everybody had to come up with a very strange story that was so stupid, but I had to take them out of their original way of thinking. And 90% was really, really stupid, but 10% was very valuable. And that is how we continued. And then suddenly everybody became interested. They said, hey, it works, etc., etc. But working with those biophotons, it was a wake-up call for me. Because what we, for instance...
Can you tell us what a biophoton is?
Yes, it is. If you have, let me say this, the equipment that we have with biophotons is that you can see light, a very simple light form on mineral or an animal or plant or a human being. And the light, you cannot see with your eyes. The cameras we have are so sensitive that we can sense light on 20 miles difference, and we can see the flickering of a very, very small burning candle. And that light became a language for us. And in biophotons, you have the ability to see the living light around all kinds of organisms. You cannot see that with your eyes. You have to go through a specific frequency area.
Yeah.
And then you can see the biophotons. And that is, of course, an electromagnetic field, but we counted the photons in our computer systems. And then you can tell exactly, due to the waveform, what it is going to do and what stage it is in. So I give you an example. For instance, we measured seeds, just organic seeds from a plant or something else, or vegetable. And what we did, we put them all together and we gave them water. And that changed my world, really. It was, what I saw was an explosion of light. And I saw that that light was communicating with each other. There was an intelligence going on with the water and the light that I had never seen before in my life. And then I asked myself, what do I know? I know nothing. I know I'm stupid.
Let's stop there for a minute because I have a feeling this is huge. So the first step is you essentially developed instruments,
Yep.
maybe not you, but your group, or that could measure the emittance of an energy pattern, basically some kind of light from living beings.
Yep.
So, and this gets into something I talk about a lot. The problem in so-called science and medicine is we only know how to measure quantity, so we only think there is quantity. And what you're talking about is a kind of measurement of the quality of a living being.
That's it.
It's essentially its ability to emit light, which probably, or at least possibly, is a fundamental quality of life.
Yep.
And so once you can measure that, that opens up worlds of what happens if you do this or that, or sing to it, or put water in it, or whatever.
Exactly. That's exactly what we did.
Got it. All right.
And then you become like a young kid again. You think, oh my God, I'm playing and I get information coming to me. And
so then you put the seeds in water, and what happened then?
I saw an explosion of light.
Wow.
And not only that, we counted the photons, and then we saw certain data coming into the computer, and the data was a language for me. Because out of the data, I could see if the light and the water had a certain quality.
What do you mean by quality?
Because due to the waveforms, I could see in what stage it is. Because suddenly you saw that the DNA was activated in the seed because it was going to explode in light. And then phase 1 started, and phase 2. And at the end of the certain days, you had roots coming out of the seed. And then it was growing to the soil, and it grew to the light. And you thought, oh, every time you had new waveforms and new energy coming in.
Okay, let me stop you a minute here, because I have been introduced to the idea that our DNA, or any DNA, has maybe little, if anything, to do with transcribing for proteins, but it has everything to do with the transformation of energy and light.
That's our assumption.
So not your assumption, it sounds like you saw that somehow.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Or so you could see that the water activated the DNA, or maybe you didn't see it activated the DNA, it activated something which then started making processes happening which you could follow in your laboratory.
That's it.
Probably because you had experience with, computer software analysis.
Yeah. I knew how to analyze data.
Yeah, got it. All right. So then what happens?
And then we said, let's use different type of waters, and let's use different type of seeds. And let's see if we can find specific frequencies in what areas happening. So we work with ultraviolet, certain areas in ultraviolet. We work with near infrared, with infrared. And in all those areas, we look, what is the light telling us? And then suddenly the light became a language for us.
And you could see this light move in phases, essentially.
Sure, and in certain spectra, you see that certain activity there is no part, there's nothing else active in another part, but in a specific part, there is an activity, and then it moves on to a next part. And suddenly you think, I'm looking to an orchestra.
Uh-huh.
But in God's sake, who is the director of this?
Right. Got it. Okay.